You know what's really strange? This movie. If somehow you stuck around through that humor, then today I'm going to be talking about Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. Starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Elizabeth Olsen, and Xochitl Gomez. First of all, I'd like to talk about the cast in Doctor Strange 2. I think that Benedict Cumberbatch continues to be good as Strange here, especially because he plays multiple different Stranges. If you've seen the trailer, he is different variants of himself. As he travels throughout the multiverse, you see different versions of himself, and they kind of interact with one another. And I think Benedict Cumberbatch continues to be good in the role of Strange, and also is good in the other roles of kinda Strange, but not our Doctor Strange. I think that as performances go, I liked him slightly better in Doctor Strange. I thought he did a little bit better with the sort of emotional lines, but overall he's very solid here, as always, in the role of Doctor Strange. Elizabeth Olsen, Elizabeth Olsen is also very good here as Scarlet Witch. Continuing on her character from WandaVision, she gives a little bit more of a sort of crazier, a little bit more unhinged performance here, and I think overall it works pretty well. And I think that the times that it doesn't work quite as well, it's because the writing at times is a little spotty, which I'll talk about later, so make sure to stick around. But yeah, in this movie, Elizabeth Olsen brings a much more chaotic, unhinged version of Wanda Maximoff to the screen, and I think overall it works quite well. And Xochitl Gomez, who plays America Chavez in this movie, is also really, really good. The character she plays is very charismatic, very interesting. Personally, I'm a sucker for charismatic characters on screen. I think that you connect a lot better emotionally when you like at least some part of the character, and they do a really good job making America Chavez quite likable, so that when emotional moments come by, you really actually care about what happens. I'm excited to see what they do with her in the future, and I think that overall she was a really good addition to the story and to how the movie flowed, and to how the movie's emotional beats came into play. And also, of course, I'm not going to be going into spoilers, but the cameos that do appear in the movie are also very good. Certainly not as crazy as the rumors going around about this movie, but when cameos do happen on screen, they're generally quite good. And yeah, I think overall the cameos are a fine addition to Doctor Strange 2. Danny Elfman, who is a longtime collaborator with the director of this film, Sam Raimi, he made a fantastic score for Doctor Strange 2. I thought that it really built on the themes that were introduced in the first movie, but adding some more rock and roll tones to it, as well as some of the more horror elements that are in Doctor Strange 2. Overall, he made a killer score that works really well and aids a lot of the scenes that happen in Doctor Strange 2. Thunder, I barely know her. The score is bold and fresh in a way that the MCU has been doing a lot lately with movies like Shang-Chi and Eternals. They've really been trying to mix up their scores a lot, and I think that Danny Elfman delivered a great piece of work here. And Sam Raimi, the director of this film, made his return to the Marvel Universe after directing the first 3 Spider-Man movies in the early 2000s, and I think that his return was quite good. His directorial style was quite clear here, especially in the cinematography. The way that shots are framed are much more bold than the average Marvel film, as well as there are some sort of simple effects that kind of go over the camera in certain scenes. That really adds a sort of fresh flavor to the movie. I think as far as that part of the movie goes, he did a good job of bringing something fresh to the table here. I also really like that in Doctor Strange 2 there is a really cool and weird third act, and it's sort of set up by the earlier acts. It feels well earned and it feels interesting, while bringing in some of the occult and also somewhat horror vibes that Sam Raimi is really good at into the mix. To me, the third act was overall quite satisfactory and had some really cool ideas going throughout. Personally, I wish that this movie could have been a little bit more ambitious in its multiversal travels. I wish they had maybe gone to a few more dimensions, or at least that some of the universes they pop through for like 3 seconds we could have at least gotten a minute in. While too much of that could certainly drag the film down, I think that a little more of that would have been healthy for the movie, and helped give the scope of the multiverse that they're trying to sell. I understand why it needs to be tampered, because the multiverse in the context of the MCU is still a fairly new concept to many audience members, and so sort of tampering what the multiverse looks like now definitely helps prepare audiences for more movies down the line, so it can get a lot crazier later. I think of this movie as sort of a multiverse primer, so that in the future they can really go wild. But even so, recent movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once did much, much crazier things with the multiverse, and audience members seem to really enjoy it. So I think they could have gone a little crazier in this movie while saving their best stuff for later on. One of my biggest issues with Doctor Strange 2 is that at times the writing feels a little bit corny. It's not bad. I don't think there's ever really a time in the script where I feel like, oh, that's a really bad line. But there are definitely times where it's just not peak writing like we've seen in earlier Marvel movies. One line from the movie that I think of, which I'm going to take out of context to avoid spoilers, is that Doctor Strange says something along the lines of, "So am I. So am I." Like he repeats it, and it's not bad, especially with good acting. It can be made into a pretty decent line. But there were multiple times in the movie, especially with Wanda's writing, where I felt that it was a little bit over the top, a little bit unbelievable, and maybe even a little ungrounded, a little bit sort of lofty. I don't really know how to articulate it better than that. It's just a little bit too maybe over the top, maybe a little bit corny at times. I think that at times it can just feel a little bit messy, a little bit kind of just too much. And there are definitely some lines that just feel like they should have gone through another draft or two to become the best script it could be. My other big issue with the movie is that it has emotional moments, and those emotional moments are set up by the film, but I don't think the actual scenes are structured in a way where I emotionally connect to them. There are certainly moments with America Chavez's character where there's definitely some emotion at play, but I think that in terms of Doctor Strange and his arc over the movie, I really feel like they set up quite a bit of emotional punch, but the way the scenes were structured that tried to pay off that emotional punch didn't really maximize on the emotions. There were even some lines that if they had been put in a different context would have been so much harder hitting. And I think that while in the writing and the story, the emotional moments are set up and we're ready for them as an audience, I just don't think they're well done enough where I actually feel for them or care about them in the way that the movie is trying to get me to. Which is disappointing because they had a lot of bones that were really strong for a lot of great emotional payoffs that I felt that they kind of squandered at times. Going into Doctor Strange 2, at first I was expecting it to be really, really great. And then I watched the red carpet premiere, and people just didn't seem that passionate about it. And then reviews started coming out, and it just seemed like it was just a kind of meh Marvel movie. I don't feel that way. I actually quite liked it. I think it's definitely in the top half of the MCU for me. Maybe in the top 10 MCU films out of the 25 or so they've made so far. And yeah, I enjoyed what they did with trying to play with the horror elements, even though it wasn't as scary as I was expecting. And I appreciate its boldness, even though it falls short at times in terms of the emotional moments, as well as the screenplay problems that the movie has at times. Overall though, I still liked it. I'm gonna give Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness a 7.5. So what did you think of Doctor Strange 2? Put it down in the comment section down below. Did you hate it? Did you love it? What did you like about it? That's totally a rip from Jeremy Johnson. And yeah, if you enjoyed the content, I would appreciate it if you gave a like and subscribed. We're still a very small channel, and I'm trying to grow to reach more people, to talk about movies with as many people as possible as I go forward on my filmmaking journey. So if you're interested in that, I would really appreciate it if you went down below and subscribed for more videos. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.